It works basically on off of these four things here: omnipotence, benevolent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Maybe not so much, but it's another one that gets thrown in there. And so it's really just about limiting God based on these four things. So the way that I have this written up is the problem of evil is most commonly addressed in philosophical workings of Christian theology and often deals with proofs for the existence of God. However, today let's restrict our inquiry to proving or disproving God's existence. Restrict it from proving or disproving God's existence and simply stick to, if it is even possible, how the problem of evil can be reconciled. Although all religions have developed intricate ways to provide meaning in suffering, it is the monotheistic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam that the term theodicy is originally derived. Early Christian theologians especially sought a method to rationalize the simultaneous existence of evil and the existence of an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving, and ever-present deity, the omnis. Theodicy is now often used by religious scholars to discuss and compare various religious responses to the problem of human suffering. But due to time restraints, we're just going to deal with the theodicy proposed by Gottfried Leibniz. Leibniz was a Christian and mathematician during the Enlightenment period in Europe and helped give us calculus. Leibniz worked from the assumption that God was omnipotent and omnibenevolent, just two of the omnis, and thus God created the best of all possible worlds based on that. Working from this assumption, Leibniz felt forced to reconcile the existence of evil in a perfectly created world. In his reconciliation, Leibniz formed three categories for evil. He stated that evil exists in three capacities: natural or physical evil, like natural disasters and disease; metaphysical evil, which is just basic mere imperfections; and ethical or moral evil, sin, basically. Leibniz based his argument on this categorization, claiming that God manifested natural or physical evil for the purpose of establishing a greater good in response to human moral evil, or just to simply prevent a greater evil from occurring. Secondly, God created metaphysical evil so humans would know what is good in relation to our imperfect nature, or original sin, you could reason, I suppose. Finally, God granted humans free will, which allows humans to commit moral evil due to our imperfect nature, yet also allows humans to act morally in a willful manner. There's obviously problems to Leibniz's arguments here, and pointing out these problems is probably a good place for us to begin this discussion. So what problems, if any, does anyone see in Leibniz's argument, is where I'd like to begin this. If evil and human suffering exists, which omni should be disregarded in order to allow for that evil?
Well, actually, as far as leaving out omniscience, that's kind of a big one to leave out, right? Because, I mean, you can actually flat out just say, look, it's the best of all possible worlds, just because, well, the big guy doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, he's powerful enough to prevent it. He's really good, and if he just knew about it, he'd love to help out. But
right.
Just doesn't know. Yeah, I've even looked at the first paragraph of the Leibniz reading that's in my one-on-one textbook, and that he does say, and this cause must be intelligent. So, and he says he's perfect. Leibniz says God is perfect. So I think we can firmly. He basically has to have those three, the top three anyway. I'm not going to really take that.
The problem with omniscience is that he really pushes for the free will, and that's a tough thing to overcome.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Well,
yeah,
maybe, but
definitely.
What I'm saying is that he's going to say God is all-knowing, so God does know what's going on. It's that God willed that we would wanted it to have free will, and it's better for us to have free will, for us to be able to make choices, than if we were robots, for example, or programs, computer programs or something. It's much better for us to actually be able to have free will to get out there in the world. God doesn't want us to sin or do bad things or have to do evil, but that's going to be, he's leaving it up, or God is leaving it up to us. So that's the idea.
If you're talking about natural evil, you kind of have to say, you kind of have to question whether or not God is omnibenevolent if you have natural evil. Because if you have natural evil, then that includes stuff like death. if people would think if God loves us, then why would He want us to live forever?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge problem.
I think with the omniscience, I think that there's a huge problem with knowing everything and knowing all, because I mean, if you know the beginning and the end, then anything that you create, you would know its life cycle and its path. And knowing that this person is going to be born and become, a serial killer and know his entire path, and then send him to a hell that's eternal, knowing that he was going to be born and be this person, I think is a huge issue.
So you're
with that.
saying that if he knows this, that you don't necessarily have freedom over it.
Right. That's a huge issue with free will too, because I mean, if he's all knowing, then where's your will?
With groups like the Calvinists and other groups that believe in predestination, because they do believe that God is omniscient and that God knows everything. He knows when you're going to be born, when you're going to die, what you're going to do in your life. But with people who believe in predestination, they usually rule out the idea of free will. They don't believe in free will.
And Augustine does believe in free will, and that you still have free will, even though God really is all-knowing and knows every choice.
So is it the question that we're here to? No, I'm not. Is it the question of experience, or is it the question of free will?
I don't know. One of my colleagues says there's no way that, he's on your side. It doesn't make any sense. If God knows that I'm going to do A in 5 minutes.
And I mean, I
do A. I cannot.
And I've had tons of arguments with religious people. I mean, I'm from an area where there's really, really religious, with the black folks, and I've come across, people. I'm like, okay, well, if he knows, how is it possible for me to have a decision, to make any decision? And this is the analogy that they always give me, or the comparison, is that, say you're a parent and you have a child, and you know what the child is going to do before they do it. And I was like, well, that's not the same, because I'm coming off of an assumption or experience on what my child has done in the past. But there's a clear difference from being an experienced parent and knowing my child and knowing everything.
Right. Being all powerful, being able to stop it all.
Exactly.
Even if you know what your child is going to do, that doesn't necessarily
mean they're going to do it the next time.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have any power to cause it or prevent it or change it. Where the argument is that God would have the power, if He wanted to do so, to cause, prevent, or change it.
Man, that's the omnipotent. Yeah.
So one of Leibniz's key premises in his argument as well is that if God is all good, or God is the best being, then God had a choice between all the different, as we call them, universes. He said worlds, but different universes that God could have created. So He had to have picked the best. So he's like, draw a line. So this is
right. We're the best.
Right. There you go. What? Okay. So
I don't know. Then that questions whether or not God's perfect, because there are probably every one of us in this room that can imagine something better.
So take this case. You can ask the question, why did God create anything at all? Assume God exists, right? Which, by the way, you have to assume God exists for the problem of evil to even be a problem. You also have to assume that there is evil or suffering. If you argue, no, there's no evil or suffering, it's just an illusion, we don't really... All right, there's no problem. No problem. But since we're assuming for today, we're just basically assuming God exists, why does God have to create anything at all? Question one. Why is it better for God to create what God apparently, again, on the assumption, did create? And then the next thing is, tell me why this universe, this is going against Leibniz, really. It's not like I'm trying to push you guys, but Leibniz said this is the best of all possible universes, or the way the world could be. Why is the following universe not better? God creates heaven. God puts souls or minds or whatever, people, beings in heaven, and that's it. There's no hell. There's no earth to test anybody, because, kind of going back to what you were saying, God already knew, God basically has this little orientation. Let's pretend it's you. Hi, everybody. I'm God. I created this. I put you here. You might be wondering, what's going on? I will answer that. Here's what is going on. If I would have created Earth, then I would have first of all, I would have flooded it once, because I didn't do it right the first time. But anyway, once we ran through that whole thing, and I tested you and tested you and tested you, you guys would have loved me, believed in me, had faith in me, and worshiped